In this module, we are discussing integers, so we're going to begin with a basic number line. In the middle, we have 0. Now, the values to the right of 0, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, well, values to the right of 0 are known as positive numbers, indicated by a plus sign or a positive sign. Any number that lifts to the right is known to be a larger value. Now, going back to 0, we look at the values to the left. To the left of 0 are values known as negative numbers, represented with a minus, but is actually a negative sign, which indicates numbers to the left are smaller numbers. And then 0 itself is not considered positive or negative. Instead, 0 is known as a non-negative number. In other words, it's kind of unique. All right, so the directions in this case will say add using a number line. And we have 3 examples. For A, we have 1 plus 3. For B, we have negative 3 plus negative 2. And for C, we have negative 2 plus negative 1. Now, the directions state to add using a number line. Now, these numbers are fairly small, and you may already know the answer. However, we want to make sure we really understand integers. So, using a number line, starting in the first example of 1 plus 3, we put an arrow or a dot or some kind of figure on the first value. In this case, our first value is 1. Because it says plus 3, plus is like a positive sign which lived to the right on the number line. So we travel to the right 3 places. When we do that, we end on the value of 4, which means 1 plus 3 is 4. Now, honestly, you already knew that, and that's okay. But now let's look at example B, where we involve negative numbers, and you may not be quite as confident or comfortable. So again, we place a value or an arrow on the first number. For B, again, it states negative 3 plus negative 2. So we're starting at negative 3. It says plus negative 2. Because it has a negative sign, negative is on the left side, which indicates we are going to travel to the left 2 units. If we're starting at negative 3 and we travel to the left 2 units, that places us at negative 5. So negative 3 plus negative 2 gives us negative 5. All right, we're ready for C, which begins at negative 2. And it says negative 2 plus negative 1. Because of the negative 1, that means we travel to the left 1 unit. And when we do, we end at the value of negative 3. Now, it will not always be practical to draw a number line, especially if it involves large values, but we can generalize and come up with a rule. So take a moment now to pause the video and see, what do you notice? All right, well, looking at the values, when the values have the same sign, we add and keep the sign. Looking back at example A, 1 plus 3, we add the values 1 plus 3, which gives us 4, and then we keep the sign. Because 1 was positive and 3 was positive, our value remained positive 4. Looking at B, we had negative 3 plus negative 2. We add the values. 3 plus 2 is 5, but because they were both negative, we kept the negative sign in our answer, which is why we arrived at the value of negative 5. For C, negative 2 plus negative 1, again, we added 2 plus 1 to give us 3, but because both values were negative, our answer was also negative 3.